Welcome along to Point Blank Music School, where today we're joined by DJ and producer Mele. Mele's here to give us a bit of an insight into his remix of Disclosure's track, Tenderly, which is out to buy right now. So first of all, many thanks for coming down.
It's alright, yeah.
Cool. So before we get into the track itself, I just wanted to ask you about your kind of background, really, how you originally got into making music.
It was kind of when I was about 12, 13, and it was kind of like I listened to a lot of like hip hop, and I kind of just got into like listening to like dance music as well at the same time. So, and I just bought my first pair of like turntables. So it's kind of like wanting to get into making all like these techno and hip hop records that I was listening to, and just, I don't know, I suppose I was just like interested in how it all worked.
I mean, if you don't mind me saying, you're obviously quite a young producer, really,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of already be at the kind of level you are.
Yeah.
Did DJing come first, and how did you? Because for some people, it's quite a plunge, really, to get into actually making music.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't. For me, it was kind of like at the same time, and
Right.
it was like producing alongside like learning how to DJ. But when I first started learning how to DJ, I didn't really have a clue what it was.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like two turntables, and I just thought like you had to scratch on them and like, just play tunes. But like I suppose like actually learning how to DJ came, I think, a few years later, when I got hold of like some CD decks, and like learned how to do it that way. But it was kind of like it was all really at like the same time, and like focusing like time on producing as much as DJ. Really. So.
And do you have a musical background? Do you play anything?
Not really.
No.
It was kind of. I used to do obviously I used to like piano in school and like guitar and stuff like that, but it was never really like, no one in my family really plays music. Like everyone likes music, but not as much as like, you know. So it's kind of like a weird thing for me to get into, really. yeah.
I mean, kind of following along those lines, obviously, you are at a point now where, you know, you're putting out a lot of records, you're DJing kind of all over the world.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to kind of make that jump? I mean, it's happened quite quickly, really. Is it easy to find the time to get it all in?
Yeah, well, it's only recently I've been kind of starting to struggle a bit with producing, because it is so hard when you're DJing like 3 times a week or 2 times a week, and then you've got to go home and like you've got remixes to finish, and you just kind of easy to like become a bit lazy, you know. But I never really had a problem with it until about a few months ago, to be honest. And it's kind of like I'm starting to like cope with it a lot better, and like get used to like the whole thing of like DJing and like producing like on the road and stuff. But it is really hard to like get into and like get your head around it, really.
And I mean, in terms of that, do you have like a set approach when it comes to making music? You know, obviously now, as you say, you're kind of on the road. Is it a different way that you approach making tracks now? Kind
of. It's a lot of the times, like a lot of my tracks have been started like in my bedroom, just like sitting on my laptop anyway with my headphones. But I tend to not be able to finish tracks unless I'm sitting down in front of like some monitors, and like I have like a whole day to like spend on it. Because if it just seems like, if I do a headphone mix and it seems like really rushed, and I like to like sit down with a keyboard and stuff like that. But it's always been like the same approach for me for making music. Kind of always just making like quick loops on my laptop, really. So
cool.
Yeah.
And to get into this one in particular, how did you approach this remix?
This track started really as this riff that I was just like playing when I was just like making a little thing, and it was kind of like at the same time that I'd asked Disclosure for like the parts, just to, because I'd heard it on the radio a lot, and I just thought it was wicked.
Oh, so this is one where you kind of approach them, really?
Yeah. So I just thought it would have been cool to like get my take on it. So it started as that riff, really. And then what I usually do, because I do a lot of tracks with pianos, I always use the Logic sampler pianos from from Apple, and I usually just layer them on top of each other until I get like a rather like big sound. So I had that, and I basically took this loop from the original over it, which they gave me, and it was kind of literally just building around that loop, like really.
And is that something you kind of how you normally approach tracks? Like you start with a kind of more musical idea first.
Sometimes it's especially when you're remixing, it's a lot easier to do that. So if you've got a big vocal, it's easy to build like chords and stuff around it. I'm personally not that good at like doing chords and like knowing like what fits where and stuff like that. I've only recently started to like kind of learn how to do that well, I think. But usually it starts like that, or I'll start with the drums, which kind of like start off pretty simple. Let me just get a loop here. Yeah, so these drums started off like pretty simple with just like SP1200 type hip hop snares, and I was usually with these type of drums I've been putting like big reverbs on from the Logic drums. It's kind of a lot of the time with my tracks I won't just use one clap or one snare. I usually layer about 4 or 5 usually. So this one just started like after I'd done like the piano and stuff. This came after it. It's kind of just a simple drum loop, really.
Yeah,
it's not in
hip-hop
because that was the kind of when I was doing the track, I kind of wanted it to be really like stripped back. So a lot of my tracks are kind of a bit overproduced, I think, sometimes with like too much stuff going on. So it's like but this one I kind of wanted to keep it just to the drums and kind of like the piano and like odd bits of vocal. I'll go back to the intro because after I got that like the drum loop and the piano and like the vocal, it's kind of once I've got like a few like key bits, it start like arranging and stuff. So I usually like, this is kind of, I don't know, maybe it's not a bad way to do it, but if you're playing a track that you really like, say it's like, I don't know, just like maybe like the same tempo as the track that you're making. What I tend to do is not copy arrangements, but kind of just see like, so they've got a 16-bar intro and break, and then whatever. It's kind of nice just to get like a kind of starter instead of like freaking out and being like kind of putting everything like in random places. I kind of took this loop from the original, which is just kind of like a kind of bubbly like ARP thing which builds up. So I had that underneath, and then like single stab from the just from the sampler again. A lot of things in my tracks I kind of use over and over again, just so it's kind of, I don't know, just so it's kind of like represents my sound kind of thing, I suppose. So yeah. I tend to use like the same snares and the same claps and the same kind of like crashes and effects and stuff, just so it's, I don't know, just so it's kind of like familiar and it's not a totally different track. But yeah, so it was, I had a 909 cymbal related with one from there, and then yeah, it was just like their intro vocals, which I think I'd affected in some way. Yeah, I put like a crystallizer on it, which is just kind of like a flanger, but kind of like that kind of thing. Claps in there, just like 909 claps with like a bit of reverb on. And then these, which I think I've used in like every track I've ever made, I think, since I was about 12. Them, which is basically just 808 snare, just pitched down in the sampler. Like, I usually just draw them in like that, cool. Usually. And I usually put this, like a tremolo on it, just so it's kind of good for people who are listening in headphones, I suppose. Going back to using the same thing in every track, I use this in every track, which is just a riser from Silent, which is just kind of pretty self-explanatory, I suppose. So that was the intro. It's a pretty quick one to get into it when when I DJ, I play stuff really quickly anyway. So I don't really want to make a track with like a 2-minute intro.
Is that something you think about when you're making tracks?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a bit more recent, because I did make a few tracks which had pretty like long intros for me, and then when I was out playing them, and I was like, I wish like you know it'd get here a bit quicker. So I've kind of been sticking to like 16 bar. Yeah, then I have that, which is the main like breakdown bit. But just some like little effects bits here. This was from an old Johnny L track.
Okay.
Which is before the just before, and I always use this as well, which is from a Nas track. So, and this explosion as well. So it's kind of, I kind of feel like I've got enough like effects and like little filler things that I can use in every track.
Yeah, it's familiarity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, for me, it's not. It's kind of, it's not being lazy, but it's kind of just a nicer way to get tracks moving, instead of like worrying about, oh no, I've got to find like a bomb sound or like a gunshot or something. It's kind of nice just to have like a folder with like everything in it.
I mean, the other option is like if you do go the route of synthesizing everything, then you kind of lose some of that workflow.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did used to do that a lot, and I was trying to build like risers, and like for every new track I had, I was trying to build a riser, and then I was trying to build like gunshots and like drum machines, and it was just kind of a bit time consuming, I suppose. So just under the pianos, which I played in, it's like this city noise from the original. It's kind of like really subtle, but when I listen to it in headphones, I can notice it not being there, So that kind of just sits underneath like pretty quiet. Have a bit of like a white noise in there. And then I wanted to do like a slow down just to lead into the drop. So a lot of my tunes, like I have like edits. So I have like a like a piano breakdown, and I want to lead into the drop. I'll have this. I'll like convert them to audio, because it's just so much easier to do like slow downs and stuff. So I had that, which is kind of just the grand piano and kind of like a telephone like EQ on it.
Right. Okay.
And that was just slowed down to just lead into the drop. Yeah. So that's the drop. I mean, it's literally like such a simple drop. It's like snares laid with this, which is just a bleep that I use in like a lot of things. That, which is from the original, just like sitting under, like it's kind of, I think tracks, like people try and like overproduce them with really like loud things, and like so they try and like fill up the drum track and stuff. With me, it's kind of putting things like really quiet and like subtle.
Mm.
But with if they weren't there, you'd notice it. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes into the drop, I changed the sound of the pianos as well.
Okay.
I think I changed the sound and see. So in these ones, I've got the release pretty far up, and then when it goes into the drop, it's all the way down. So it's kind of of like a bit of a like a compressor, like gate type thing without kind of like a lazy gate, I suppose.
Yeah.
But see there,
Okay,
it's like much shorter.
It's another subtle kind of change, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then the snares again come in there. Yeah, and I kind of like chopped audio as well, just to sit on top of the snares. I had these things, I think, which are just like bass. It's just another little thing, kind of like. Yeah, so that was just layering them snares, just another little thing really, and yeah, just using that rise up again there. But it's kind of like with this track, it was just like changing the pianos. See there, I had like this grand piano, and then when it came into this next bit, I like switched up the piano to another piano. So it's just, I suppose it's just trying to like keep things interesting, I suppose. Sub bass. Sub bass is from. I use the same sub bass sound in like most of my tracks, to be honest, and that is always side chain with a kick. So it's always like that in my tracks. It's this platinum bass preset on the compressor in Logic.
Okay.
And I think it's a preset in here, or maybe one of myself. I don't really want to be giving me the presets that I used, to be honest, but it's kind of just it kind of just works in like every track, this kind of bass sound. So that's just sitting under there. See if you bypass it, it's kind of a bit. It just kind of gives it a bit of movement, I suppose. But I do usually try out a lot of different types of drums. You can do like there's different kicks up here which I like mightn't have ended up using. But usually, again, same in most of my tunes. It's layering 2 kicks. I actually learnt this off Swedish House Mafia. Like it's nice to have like a top kick, which is roll all like the bottom end off, and then kind of just a top kick, and then like you've got like the 909 kick to give you like the bottom end. Because that's just personally like how I do it, and it's always this. I always use the 505 as the top kick and the 909 as the bottom kick. I think I've used the 909 kick in like, I think 90% of my tracks has like the 909, because once you like have it compressed right, and stuff like that, like the type, again, like the Logic Type R kick drum in there on most of my kicks. It's just kind of cuts through for me what is like really important, and I don't think a lot of producers pay attention to it. Is 90% of people are going to be listening to your tracks out of a laptop. You know, and it's all good that your tracks sound wicked on monitors and they sound good in clubs, but for me personally, I do a mix down in my headphones, and then I'll do a mix down on my monitors, and then I'll do a mix down on my laptop. Just so I can, because I know people are going to be like complaining about it. It sounds rubbish, but it's just.
I think it's part of the way things are today. Really,
exactly.
even some of the guys, you know, here at Point Blank, some of the mix engineers will tell you, you know, put in iPod headphones, you know, listen to it on their Sony Little White Things.
I mean, it'd be wicked if everyone listened to it out of big speakers or like out of a club system, like, but it's not really the way. So that's the reason why I'm kind of like really picky about drums and like if they really like punch out of like laptop speakers. It's kind of nice to listen to stuff in the car as well. Yeah. Because then you can get like a real like feel for it. Like my tracks out, I was kind of like, it wasn't this one. I think it was Beamer. When I made it, I was kind of like, it's alright. Like, do you know what I mean? But and then I heard it on the radio, and it kind of gave it a whole new different thing because you're hearing it as a normal person. Not as like a producer. So I think that is like really important to make your tracks sound nice on YouTube or iTunes or whatever people are going to be listening to it out of. So that's why I always choose like a top kick and like really like snappy drums and make sure everything's like EQ'd properly. In terms of like going back to the drums again, I always make a drum bus, which is I don't know why there's vocal in there, but I always use a drum bus and put the Logic Dance music EQ on it. Okay. Like always, like it's just. I mean, it's really like subtle differences, but for me, it sounds wicked. And the PSP vintage warmer on there as well. So that's always just to a bus, and I usually do that before I do anything, to be honest. Okay. Like get my drums snapping on. So you have, if like not a full template, but some sort of go-to kind of. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of like I do have a template on Logic. Okay. Which has got like obviously like your sidechain set up and like your buses set up. I mean, I know a lot of people like tend to bus stuff for like effects and stuff, so like a reverb bus. I don't really. The only things I bus is my drums, to be honest. Okay. And then if I've got them sounding right, then I mean if I was doing like a full vocal track, like going back to the Beamer track with Kano, I think I had like 3 verses, like his verses like layered, and then I had like ad-libs doubled, and then that was in a bus with like a Waves vocal rider or something like that. But for like this track, it was kind of not really needed. Just a straight club track, I guess. Yeah. Back into the vocal then with the kind of rising, like bubbly thing, and the city noise as well, sitting under that. On this bit, I pitched the vocals. So I had that, and then that one. It's kind of like it's like panned right to the left, and it's just the Logic pitch shifter on it, and like a bit of compression and stuff. A lot of the time in my tracks, I roll off everything that's not a kick or a bass. Just so there's I kind of like once I started doing that, I kind of noticed such a difference in like my mix downs and like how they like sounded in a club. Like it's really like little things that kind of like make all the difference, to be honest. Because like in a club you want like all your bass and kick to come out. And for you, I guess bass is a big thing, right, in your tracks? Yeah, it's like, I suppose it comes from when I used to listen to, I listened to like a lot of grime. And kind of like a bit of like early dubstep, which is kind of like really just subby. And just like one like sine wave. It kind of comes from that. I never really try and be too clever with like bass lines and stuff. Maybe because I'm not that good at them. Maybe it's just because I know what works, and I just go with it, I suppose. But and then it's pretty and then we had the breakdown, which, like I was saying earlier, I converted the whole piano to audio. and I just had a filter rising up on it.
Okay.
One thing that I found out how to do in Logic, which I was really stupid about, and I only learned it when I was with Sinden in LA like a few weeks ago, is this latch.
Yeah.
This latch thing, because like usually I was like drawing everything in and like see like automation. It was all just like with the pencil tool and stuff. And then I found like this latch thing, and I was like, oh, I should have been using that all this time. But yeah, that was just a drawn in like on the filter. Same with the vocal as well. That's just rising up with it as well. I suppose it's kind of just like a break if it's been playing in the club. It was kind of like a clubby arrangement I went for, not too like not really like a radio type arrangement. So I have like the claps with like a bit of like flange on them. I really like what Lil Silver does with the flange on his tracks. So that was kind of like a bit of that. So it's kind of like going up and down on that.
Is this something you do, after you've kind of built the arrangement, or you kind of tend to do that kind of automation stuff as you go?
Yeah, literally. Like I do like everything as I go. Like
the mixing as well.
Mixing as well, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of I used to do it all at the end, but it was kind of it kind of like takes the track out. When I'm making it, I want to be like hearing it like I'm hearing it like in a club.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly. I need to get into it like straight away. So the piano, the reason I put it into audio was to do this slow down. Which is in Logic, if you get, for people who might not know how to do this, if you get the crossfade tool in Logic, and then turn this bit from fade to slow down, and then you can draw wherever you want. There's a lot of plugins that do it, but I don't think they do it as well. Like there's Effectrix and another like tape slow down thing. But
I guess if you can work in the box as well, why not?
Yeah,
really?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so much like when I found out how to do that, I was like, I'm just gonna use this on everything now. But you could do like a pitch up on it, and then you do speed up. So like that. Okay. I used that a lot in again going back to Beamer. I used it a lot in that, in kind of like the edits in that track. So yeah, that was that. Just another thing leading into the drop, which is the same as the first one. Just straight back into it. And I did have these haze in there, but I don't know where they've gone. They were from a Soulja Boy record, and I used them in like all my tracks as well. That kind of vocal was just put in there like really randomly, but I just thought it worked nice just to break up kind of, just so it's not so like the same as the first track. Yeah, so that track's pretty much it is what it is, I suppose. It was the one thing I do struggle with though is EQing pianos.
Yeah,
it's like it's such a nightmare, especially when you've got bass and kicks in there at the same time and all this like mid-range high stuff going on. It's kind of that's my own EQ, but in Logic you've got the the grand piano EQs, which are wicked, but for this track I wanted it to be all about like the sub. So I didn't really want, it is really hard for like pianos to like, I find it anyway, and I spoke to like a few producers about it and they're like, oh yeah, piano's like such a pain.
I guess because it's such an organic sound that we all know, really. We all
Yeah.
know exactly what one sounds like.
Yeah,
so.
it's really difficult, like getting it in the mix. But I think I suppose I got it right. I suppose I got it right on this track. And like I've done a few tracks recently with big pianos in and stuff. So I think it's kind of nice to have a bit of practice at just EQing and stuff, really. Because I was never really that great at like EQing. It was kind of, for me, it was just like you had a few like knobs and it was like, that one sounds good, and like that one's, you know.
I think that the kind of role of a producer now it has changed a little bit. You know, it's not so long ago that you wouldn't really be expected to do the mix for yourself. You know,
exactly. I mean, it's good because it's kind of like a lot of like new producers like me are kind of just getting to do it all themselves, really, I suppose. But actually, told a lie about this song. I did bust the pianos. So I had all the pianos bust in this is the piano bust, just which isn't named, which is pretty bad. I should have known that. But on there I had just a squeezed compression, again, just like a Logic thing. A tiny bit of like a delay designer. I think like the Logic. I think what's best about Logic is the built-in like instruments, like the space designers and stuff. I haven't found like a better one. Like even if it's like Waves or whatever, I just always go back to like the space designer or the delay designer or even like the compressors, and I don't use any other samplers but the Logic ones. So
I think it's quite often the case, you know, if you do have a set of tools that you know inside out, then, you know, why not stick to it?
Yeah, I know that a few producers use like Fruity Loops and they're like, oh, I really want to change the Logic, but it's like, you make wicked changes in Fruity Loops, and it's like, why should you have to change, you know? But yeah, on this channel it was, just kind of the same EQ I had on all of them, just to bring them all higher into the mix. I suppose the reason doing that is just a lot easier to control the pianos, because there's 5 or 6 different ones of them playing, so it's nice not having to go and like being like, oh, I need to pull that one down and then I need to pull that one down. Like it's kind of nice just having one fader to do it all. Yeah,
you know, as quite a young producer yourself, as we said, you know, do you have any kind of advice for people who are perhaps kind of really starting out in production and looking to get their sound to that, you know, kind of professional level?
I suppose it'd be like, I know like a lot of when you start producing, a lot of people tell you to do your own thing, and like kind of not. It's cool being like influenced by people. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like trying to replicate someone, then it's kind of not a great thing to do, I suppose. It's kind of nice to have your own little thing. Like obviously, like I was there, and for like a while I was trying to replicate this guy that I really liked and like this guy that I really liked. When I was sending my tracks out, people weren't listening to them, or it's hard. Like it is really hard to like, especially when you start out, and especially if you're young, it's hard to get the attention of people. But I suppose it's just like make the best tracks you can, and just try and just like not be too like precious about it, and just kind of get tracks to everyone, and if they like it, it's cool. If they don't, then just make another one that they do. You know what I mean? But that's kind of like what I'd say to people. That's like kind of how I started.
Cool. Well, many thanks for coming down, man. That's it here from us and from Melee. Make sure you keep locked to the blog and the Facebook, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.